Hi, and welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritchie, and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves of Naarm, where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded, land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally, and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to any First Nations people listening today. Today I'm talking to Brigitte Hafner from Tedesca Osteria in Red Hill. Brigitte has just been selected as one of the judges for the S.Pellegrino Young Chef Academy competition. This competition is an annual event to support a personal vision for the world of food, demonstrating how food can have a positive impact on society at large through ethical and sustainable food practices. When it comes to choosing the judges for this prestigious award, the Academy looks for chefs who hold sustainable and ethical food sourcing as central to their cuisine. The 5 judges chosen for the 2024-2025 competition are Brigitte, Rosheen Kaul from Etta, Josh Niland from St Peters in New South Wales, Brent Savage from the Bentley Group, also in New South Wales, and Kellie from arkhé in South Australia. When asked whether I'd like to talk to one of them, I of course wanted to talk to all of them, but I've wanted to have a chat to Brigitte for years, actually from her Gertrude Street Enoteca days. I knew that I would love finding out more about Tedesca Osteria, Brigitte's dream come true, which is a beautiful restaurant on biodynamic farm and estate in Red Hill, and I was also keen to know what made her become a chef in the first place. This chat was everything I knew it would be, as Brigitte so articulately expressed the challenges of growing food, her passion for cooking and for the hospitality industry as well, and her excitement at being asked to be a judge and working with young talent. We spoke over the phone, and the only thing that would have made this conversation any better would have been to have been at Red Hill in front of the fire with Brigitte, looking out at the farm and the autumn colours she so loves. Hi Brigitte, it's Jo here from Conversation with the Chef. How are you?
Jo, I'm good, right on the dot.
That's right. I'm nothing if not punctual, that's right.
Well, very nice to hear from you, Jo. I don't think we've met.
No, I have spoken to you on the phone before. We did an article on where chefs eat in winter for Broadsheet maybe a couple of years ago, but I haven't actually met you in person, no.
Oh, well, nice to meet you, and thanks very much for taking the time. It's a good time now. I'm deep in the throes of getting ready for Tasting Australia, and I'm sitting by the fire and just looking out and just working out all sorts of creative things.
But it's a perfect day for a fire, I have to say. It's really, that temperature suddenly dropped, didn't it?
Yeah. The one thing that I really look forward to at the end of autumn is just getting a fire on and getting ready for winter. It does get pretty cold down here.
Yeah, it does. And I loved reading. I was just doing some reading about you recently and about how, it really has been your dream. It was your dream to set up Tedesca and to have that opportunity to grow and then cook all in the same place. It sounds really idyllic.
It is, Jo. It was something that I feel very fortunate to have even pulled it off. But it was something that I've thought about for a really long time, and I think when you dwell on things a long time, it's just very rewarding when they actually do come off. Certainly wasn't easy.
No.
But I look at it now and I can't wait to get to work every day. I call it work, but it's not really. It's sort of dream job.
Yes.
And it does have all these elements that are terribly interesting for me. Obviously the cooking, the garden, the growing, being in the country, and being surrounded by all this beauty and the art and just these conversations and nature. So they are all very rewarding for me. Yes, very fortunate.
Absolutely, and you really are right in the middle of seasonality. You're really seeing it happen all around you. So that must be beautiful as well.
It is. I mean, it's, I was describing my garden to someone. My father used to be a landscape gardener, so I've always loved, ornamental gardens, something that I've taken a lot of time with when we moved down here to create a beautiful garden around the house. And, there's those green gardens that are perpetually green. You've got beautiful, evergreen trees, and I just have the opposite and I just love that season reminder of where you are. When spring comes, everything goes from nothing to all of a sudden punches out with that growth, and then summer and the height of summer and all the flowers that you get, and then autumn, all those changes. And I think very much with cooking, it's the same thing. Of course, we enjoy those changes, and we move along with it. But for us at Tedesca, it really informs everything we do in a really strong way. It's not something that we look at. It's something that we are, I suppose, we're riding on. Like it's our map, and the garden very much drives what we're doing, and how we are working. Really, it's been a very interesting change. Coming from the city, and I've always been influenced by the seasons, and I used to write pieces for Epicure, and people are excited about asparagus coming into spring and all of that. But it's very different, I think, when you don't have the choice. Back in the city, I suppose you could just you call and you make an order, and the produce comes in, and you sort of know when things are in season. But in Australia, you can pretty much get anything you want from around the country, so it's sort of a bit more blurred. And it's more of a decision that you can make. But down here, it's the other way around. It tells you, you've got like 2 rows of chilies and capsicums to use up, and you've got to use them, and that's how it is. And I mean, that's something that when I moved down here, I was always sort of drawn to this idea that you grew things, and you cook them, and all the jellies. I used to make all the medlar jellies and the quince jellies and all of that. The only thing that was missing was a family of 5 children to give it all to.
Yes. Well, I know one of my very first conversations with a chef a few years ago now was with Annie Smithers, and she talked about the respect that you have for seeing a vegetable through from a seedling through to being on the plate, and that you're less likely to waste it or to, you can't take it for granted.
100%. You have enormous respect for, Annie and what she does, and she's absolutely right. And she knows that best because she's taken that time to grow things. I mean, I relate. When I started here, I went to the extreme of growing everything by seed because I really wanted to. I suppose I didn't want to just take the little seedling from onions. I wanted to go all the way back to deciding what exactly seed I wanted to grow. And of course that was just met with complete failure most of the time, because it only just takes one day where the sprinkler system doesn't work and there's 6 weeks or 3 months lost. And it's the same with fruit. You can nurture a tree all the way to fruiting. You net the tree, and then you get rot. That's what happened this year. And you just go, God, you go to the supermarket, you just buy a bag of apricots, and it's so easy. But it's actually not. And you go to the trouble of growing something, and you realise that it's actually not that easy. So we do really, really respect what we grow. And I think I got about a handful of apricots off this tree, and each one of them, I didn't know what to do with it. They were so revered. And then some years you just get this absolute windfall, and it seems so easy. So it's a very interesting exercise, and it's very nice to be reminded of, I suppose, that connection. And it's the same with the animals. We have sheep on our property, and that's something that we didn't really know much about when we first started here. Really has shaped the way I, work with meat in the restaurant, and also how much I eat. And when you bring up your own lambs, and some of them don't survive, and they're pretty hard stories. So they've been good to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And where did it all start for you? Did you always know that you wanted to be a chef?
It's interesting. Look, no, I didn't always know I wanted to be a chef. I came from a kitchen of very good cooks. Mum, sister, my father, very good. Also very good at hospitality. They were great entertainers. They had lots of dinner parties and parties with great food. My mother was really exceptional at cooking. She did teach me very early on. She took on a floristry business, and so at the age of 13, she sort of thrusted me. I had to sort of learn how to start cooking for the family. So by the time she came home, half of it would be ready, and she would teach me these things, and I was naturally good at it. And then I was encouraged to do all things other than what I wanted to do, which was art, because that's really what I was very good at school, and really wanted to be an artist, but I don't suppose that was a very clever career choice. So I fell into hospitality, as a lot of people do, and I do remember being very good at it and very natural at it. So I started out in sort of the front of house, which I don't think I was very good at and still aren't. But when I was offered a job as an apprentice with Neil Perry, I remember this first day working with Kylie Kwong, and I just thought, oh my God, this is it. This is absolutely it. It was like the sky just opened up for me. I didn't really feel like I had been particularly good at anything up until that point. I was 23. But that day I was in the kitchen, I was like, this is definitely it. And I knew. Yeah, so it was once I got there, it was very clear.
What was it, do you think, that really captured you?
Well, gosh, there's so many things that I love about being in the kitchen. And back then, I think it was just this feeling of something being just so completely right. It just felt so naturally at ease. I just felt like this is a place I know and understand, and I'm good at this. I think that's what it was. Of course, along the way, there was lots of things that I loved, that I grew to love as well. But that, I remember that was the moment where I just felt that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, the industry is, well, it feels like the industry is changing rapidly as we speak, but what are some big changes that you notice between then and now?
That's an interesting question. What do I mean? Yes, of course, the industry is always changing. And I'm not sure it's changed enough, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I would probably reflect more on what we have done in response to the industry ourselves. Of course, I worked for all those chefs that yelled and screamed, and those burnout hours where you just, I could barely hold the steering wheel. My arms were so tired and my hands were full of cuts and burns, and, just that sort of, I suppose, the abuse that your body can go through, and those hellish working hours and the pressure and all of that. I thought for many years, Jamie and I, my business partner, we would often talk about what is it that gets people, they're so driven and they just put all of themselves into their work in the industry, and they just get really burnt out. It's just such a common thing. And I said, I really understand what there is to love about it, the energy from it, the dealing with the people, the creative side of it, the fact that it's just like theatre every day, unscripted, just something that you can influence or, just manipulate, but not entirely know what's going to happen. I mean, it's part Fawlty Towers, it's part ballet, and it's just like nothing else is like it. It's exhilarating. I think, chefs could also equally be as good as in emergency. The response that you need is just so quick to decide on things, and your hands are working faster than your brain. It's just quite extraordinary the things that you do as a chef in restaurants. So, and then we would say, well, how do we do this so that we can do it forever and do it and still love it? And, Jamie and I started talking about doing it just differently. And so what we created at Tedesca is something that we did as a sort of response to change all of those things that we think did very well in the industry, those sort of hours. And we created a restaurant that we do 4 lunches, and we have one team so that most of them are all full-timers. And we also created a restaurant or a business where we were in it all the time. And we did that specifically so that we could, be in it and drive the culture and just make sure everything goes really well and look after all the teams so that, I think that that's something that some businesses get set up and they're a business. And I think it's very hard to, there's humans in this, in this business, and all people need help. They don't function like robots. And, being in it all the time, we can really care for everyone and make sure that, if they need anything, they get what they need tended to, that kind of thing. So, and also this one team sort of idea that we had worked really well, because everyone starts the week together, finishes the week together. It's like a football team. They're all this very cohesive, connected, one unit. They're all going for the one thing together. And so energetically that really works, and they all get a very nice break and very refreshed, and then they're all sort of travelling together in this one project. And of course they don't have the nights, they don't have those back-to-back shifts, and I think it's a lot more sustainable. So that's sort of our main. We've done that as a sort of our response, I suppose, to what the industry's probably failing. So, the sort of the difficult areas around the industry.
No, absolutely. And I mean, my next question was going to be leading into young chefs a bit more, and what are the challenges facing them, do you think, and your advice to young chefs starting out their pathway. Is that the challenge? Is it still a challenge to maintain a work-life balance in the city in some of these restaurants?
I think it is still. I mean, work-life challenge is a challenge for everyone, isn't it?
Yes.
You want to work somewhere really, really good. It's often very demanding, and that does come with the territory pretty much anywhere. But I think particularly, chefs still do have to work those long hours in the back-to-backs. And I think that there's probably, there's some good things happening that are different to how it used to be. I don't think people get yelled at as much anymore, which I think is very good, because that's just so unhelpful.
Yes.
But I think that young people just need to look after themselves more, and just probably not choose to work in places where there's, where they're not good places. And they need to, know that it's a long game, and that there's, it's a bit of a marathon, and burning out quickly, it's very easy just to fall into, a love and a passion for the job. But it is, it's a fairly classic 10-year mark where, you do, if you work those incredibly overlong hours, that you do tend to burn out. And if you don't want to, then you probably need to think about how can you do it differently. And, I don't know what the solution is. I think that, I think it will just come about. People will start, changing the way they employ people. Maybe that's what will come about.
Yes. Well, thinking of these the bright young future of cooking, and you're a judge on the jury for the Pacific Regional Final of the S.Pellegrino Young Chef Academy, which is a big thing to be tasked with. So how did that come about?
Well, I think, I actually, I'm really excited about that.
Great.
And I have not been asked before.
Oh. And
I'm really excited to be seeing the young talent that's coming through. Being down on the peninsula, you don't see as much of the young talent as you do when you're in the city. And there are a lot of young people that work with me, and I just, I love seeing talent. When people are young, they've just got such fresh ideas, and very, very important for the industry that new people come along and that they're really supported. And they do need a lot of support. You know, I've been around for a long time, and I've worked with some great people, both younger than me and older than me. And I think, you know, talent ought to be you know, ought to be noticed and supported. So I'm very much looking forward to it. How did it come about? Well, I don't know. I mean, I was asked.
Great.
I'm very glad to be involved. So I look forward to seeing who's out there.
Absolutely. And so you've got a great jury. How does it work on the day? Are you all five of you there at once, or do you confer? What's the...
So I can't tell you that.
No.
They have not told us. I think there will be a series of, you know, introductions to the process.
Sure.
That's not something that they've led us through yet.
Yeah. So I was really interested to see, because it's chefs under 30, but I think they need to be over 18, do they? But there's something to do with that as well.
Well, I think that's fair. You know, like at 18, you really haven't seen very much yet. And, you know, over 30, I mean, it's a shame that that's a cut-off in a sense, but you've got to start somewhere. And
Yes.
I think that's a decent, you know, between 20 and 30 is really where you cut your teeth.
Yeah.
And, you know, where you have worked will define at that stage where they're at. So it'll be interesting to note where they've worked, whether it's been international or Michelin star or in Australia. Not that any of that will, you know, determine anything. But I'll be very, you know, I'll be very open to, you know, who is it and what they present, and definitely confer with the other chefs, because all of their respect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So they bring a signature dish, and they're marked on, there's 3 different areas, so technical skills, creativity and personal belief, which I find a really interesting one. So they need to be able to have a really clear message about the creation of the dish. That's they're good. They're 3 really interesting areas to look at. So I mean, technical skills seems like you'd be able to look at all the different, how they've chosen the material and how they like process it, I guess. And then creativity, I don't know where you really start with that, because I'm just always impressed by everything that chefs do, but I guess you've got to draw a line.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, what will they come up with? Particularly if they have an absolute blank canvas. You know, I think that is an interesting thing. Where do you start? You know, is it a building block founded on something else that you've put your own, you've you know, injected your own spin on it? There's so many things when you think about what makes a dish work, what makes it when you put that fork into it and put it in your mouth. I mean, you know, beyond texture and delicious flavours and all of that you're going through, you sort of go, well, what does it all mean? Where does it come from? What's the idea behind it? And they're all very subtle things, but I'll be very interested to see what they come up with, and what I suppose what the parameters around. Gosh, if someone just asked me to invent something from scratch, you go, well, where do you start? You know, we're in Australia, there are so many influences here. It's not like we're, you know, deep in the traditions of other countries where they just probably just have the same things over and over again every year, seasonality and all of that. But this complete inventiness is really particular to, you know, Australia and the newer countries. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. It feels like perhaps for a competition, you have to have a different approach to setting a menu, for example. So I imagine, you know, one of the things I was going to ask you, but you really did answer that, was where do you get your inspiration? And I guess you get it from your garden and from what's available, and then you work from there. But in a competition, I mean, maybe you have to have I suppose you still work in the season, but you might have to have the idea and then think about how to, I mean, I'm not really sure, because, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's like, where do you get your ideas from? You know, I mean, me in particular, yes, the garden's very influential for me, but I just get ideas from all over. I'm influenced by so many things. I'm influenced by art, by nature, some of my experiences, and also, things that I've eaten. I'm influenced by tradition. I'm often drawn back to traditions, and that's just me. I don't know what someone else, where they will get their inspiration, particularly a very young person. And how much have they eaten out, and have they travelled, and all of that.
Yeah, so, that's right.
Yes, and somehow that will speak in what they've presented. It's a bit like when you speak to someone you've never met them before, and instantly you can gauge whether they're very worldly, they've travelled well, or whether they have just come from one place, for instance. So I think food really does say so much.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really fascinating process, and I love the way you've spoken about it. And so thank you. And I've really been wanting to talk to you for such a long time, so I'm really glad that I got the opportunity today.
Thanks, Jo. Look, it was really nice to catch up again, and yes, I'm very, very excited about this, and just to see what young talent is out there, and really going to sort of be very interested in what people have. I love when other creatives do stuff. So, and good on them for putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Well, enjoy your fire, and all the best for Taste Australia.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jo.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too. See
Bye.
You. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Brigitte Hafner at Tedesca Osteria. If you want to check out all the goodness for yourself, you can jump on Instagram at Grace Byrne, that's Grace Byrne with a U, _Tedesca, Tedesca. And to find out more about the competition, you can go to at SP Young Chef Academy, all one word. As for me, I'm also on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef, all one word. And if you'd like to read other chats, you can check out my website, which is www.conversationwithachef.com. Good thing about the website is you can subscribe, and when you subscribe, then you get to know when new stories, conversations pop up, and I get to know that you're there. I would love it if you told a friend about these chats. You can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts, and you can even leave a review, which would be amazing, as long as it's good. But once again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and bon appetit.